Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. Liverpool are taking on Crystal Palace at Anfield this Sunday, and the big news going into this game is that Liverpool have got a bit of a defensive injury crisis going on. In the midfield, they've got Jordan Henderson still missing. Jurgen Klopp said in his press conference today that he might not actually play again this season because it's really uncertain over when he's actually going to come back into training. Adam Lallana is back in training but probably won't be available for this game, certainly not from the starting 11 I don't think. And then when we come to the defence, that's when the problems really start to build up, because they could be missing Joel Matip, they could be missing Klavan, and they could be missing Lucas as well. Klopp said in his press conference today that it is not 100% likely that these players will all miss the game because it's only that they didn't train today, and we know that Firmino didn't train before the West Brom game last week, and obviously he then came into that match and put in a brilliant performance. So it could be that the club's physicians just don't want to risk these players when it comes to this business end of the season, and they could start picking up muscle injuries that could obviously go on into next season as well. But as it stands, if all of those players are missing, then Jurgen Klopp does have a hell of a conundrum on his hands, because it's really difficult to work out what we could do to rectify this. I mean, the best option that we have at centre-back, if all those three are missing, is probably Joe Gomez to partner Dejan Lovren, and that's not really preferable for Liverpool because while he has played quite a few games for the under-23s, and I'm sure he's played pretty well for them, I think I've heard good things about him playing for them, you know, it's a big step up for the Premier League, especially in a game where we'd be coming up against Crystal Palace, who are a strong physical side. They also like to play on the counter-attack, they've got a lot of pace on the wings, and Joel Matip for me is probably going to be the biggest blow out of all those players that are injured, because he was the player that I was relying on to keep Benteke in check, because Joel Matip is a very tall defender. He relishes these one-on-one battles with centre forwards and strikers, and this would be the perfect kind of game for him to try and shut off Christian Benteke. And without him, it's going to be a task, I think, for Dejan Lovren and Joe Gomez to deal with him, as well as all the other players that Crystal Palace have. Obviously, with the midfield as well, it's difficult to know because we can't have Lucas in the midfield like we have in the last few games. There's been a couple of shouts that Coutinho could drop back in and then Sturridge could take his place in the front three, but personally, I'd rather see Marco Grujic, simply because I don't think Sturridge is necessarily that sharp, but more importantly, like I said, this is going to be a really physical game, and that's going to be no stronger than it will be in the midfield, and Coutinho is not really the player you want to put in the midfield if the game is going to go that way, whereas Grujic, while he is missing out on experience, he hasn't really played much Premier League football at all this season. He has been on the bench in the past few games. I've heard a lot of things about how he looks a cut above everyone else when playing for the under-23s, and he's also very tall and very strong, so hopefully that should make up for his lack of experience, and it shouldn't put too much of a dent in our midfield prowess if he comes in. And then I reckon Emre Can will probably drop back into the number 6 role, where we know that he's played pretty well as well this season. So for me, apart from the massive crisis that Liverpool have got going on with injuries at the moment, the biggest problem that could be facing us in this game is complacency, because we're coming into this match off the back of two very difficult matches that many were calling our most difficult games for the rest of the season. And the worry now is that we could go into this game getting just a little bit complacent and not really taking it as seriously as we should, given that we've got 5 games left this season, and you know, we're really in the fight for the top 4 at this stage. We've got Man U playing before us this time, whereas they played after us last week, so they could put a lot of pressure on us going into this match. And we know how much of a meal Liverpool like to make out of games that should really be easy. But hopefully, given that our mentality looks like it's kind of improving, it certainly looked like that in the past 2 games, we should take this game just as seriously as the others and perform as well as we know that we can. Saying that, Palace are in very good form at the moment. They've taken 16 points out of their past 7 games, which is only 1 less than Liverpool have. They've had some very good victories against Arsenal. Admittedly, that was at Selhurst Park, whereas Liverpool's game against them will be at Anfield, and Arsenal are playing pretty poorly at the moment. But it's not just that they beat Arsenal 3-0. They played very well in that game, and they had a very effective game plan. And obviously, they also got that 2-1 win against Chelsea, which no one saw coming. And the big thing that everyone's saying that might help Liverpool in this game is the fact that they'll be missing Mamadou Sakho, who has been very good for them and one of the main reasons that they've been so defensively solid for the past few weeks and why they've picked up their performances recently. But Sam Allardyce is a very good manager. I know that, like Tony Pulis, we don't really like him, but again, you have to hand it to him and say that he knows how to set up a team, particularly in the defensive sense. So I don't really see Sakho being a massive miss for them. It does tip things a little bit more in Liverpool's favour, but we've certainly got no reason to be complacent just because they're missing their star centre-back going into this match. Christian Benteke, of course, I mentioned him earlier, could be another threat because I reckon Sam Allardyce is going to set up like he did against Arsenal, where he got Benteke to win the knockdowns and then all those fast players to run the channels and exploit the pace of the fullbacks. And lo and behold, Liverpool have got James Milner at left back, so goodness knows how he's going to deal with Wilfried Zaha in this game. I'm certainly a little bit frightened to find out. But I think that's how Palace are going to set up. I think it's going to be long balls, Benteke knockdowns, and then their fast wing players coming in and threatening in the box. So while I certainly don't think this game is going to be easy, it could turn out to be a bit of a slog for Liverpool, I still think we're going to get the win. So here are my 3 reasons why we will beat Crystal Palace on Sunday. First of all, this new look attack we've got with Divock Origi in the front 3 instead of Sadio Mane looks like it's starting to click a little bit more now, because the criticism of Divock Origi this season has, in my opinion, been a little bit unfounded, because a lot of the time he's been shoved into the side as a sub or in games where he's just been put in to replace a player who's taken a knock or an injury, and it's taken him a little bit of time sometimes to adapt to the match and grow into the game and actually play to the best of his ability. You know, the best form he had this season was earlier on when he scored 5 goals in 5 consecutive games, and now that he's getting a similarly extensive run in the team, he's starting to replicate that form. So now that he's gelling a little bit more with Felipe Coutinho and Roberto Firmino, I think they're getting a bit more out of him and he's getting the best out of them as well. So hopefully, with it looking like this is how we're going to stay for the rest of the season with our front 3, those 3 will gel a little bit more and attack a little bit better. Secondly, the momentum is really behind Liverpool at the moment. Crystal Palace, now that they've brought themselves out of the relegation fight, haven't really got that much left to play for, whereas Liverpool, they've got everything to play for because they've got their place in the top 4 on the line. And after a lot of good results recently, and the Bournemouth result being the only big disappointment in the last 7 games, there's a lot of momentum and motivation behind the team, and they really seem to be picking up their mentality, and they seem to have got that winning attitude to them, which they showed in the games against Stoke and West Brom. So I'm hoping that we can take that into this game and obviously the other 4 games we've got this season, and that should help us get the win. And finally, I think the fact that Liverpool are a bit unpredictable at the moment in the terms of how they're going to line up and how they're going to set up tactically in games should probably come to help us in this game, because like I said earlier, Sam Allardyce knows how to set up a team and he knows how to put a tactical plan together. But if he doesn't know exactly how Liverpool are going to play, then he can't really put together a tactical plan that he knows will counteract our style of play. And I think that's what happened in the game against West Brom, where Tony Pulis had an idea of how he wanted to set up his team, but Liverpool played in a way unlike they've really played earlier on in the season, and that's, in my opinion, what really got us the win. So that, coupled with the fact that obviously we're missing a few players, so we are going to have to change our lineup, should give us that little bit of unpredictability that might make us a bit more difficult for Crystal Palace to play against. So that's all for this video. If you want to find out how exactly I think Liverpool will line up for this game, then check out the FIFA 17 predictor, which should be out later on this evening. Until then, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new around here, and follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter. Bye for now.